We will start by discussing the Share and Markup tool available with these cloud services apps and tools. I have 4 main sections regarding Share and Markup that I am going to go through with you. The first is just defining what Share and Markup is. I next want to talk about the licensing emails and 3D Experience IDs. This is the very first step anybody takes when getting their 3D Experience tenant set up. From there, we're going to get a little bit more specific into how to set up Share and Markup information, and then I want to go over a couple of examples. So the last 2 points are intended to be more tutorial in style. The reason for that is I want you to be able to come back to the webinar and be able to use this to help get these tools set up on your end. But let's get through the first 2 topics first. Let's start with what is Share and Markup. We have a pretty good idea based on the overview, but let's define this a little bit more. Share and Markup is a collaboration tool that's powered by the 3D Experience platform. This will allow you to share SOLIDWORKS files to users inside or outside of your company. What's really important to know about this is if you do send a link to someone outside of your company, they do not need a license in order to access the file. That was one of the very big enhancements with this Share and Markup is now we can collaborate with anyone. The shared files are viewed in a 3D viewer inside of a web browser. I want to make sure we understand that this is going to be browser based. Again, this is a really big benefit because we are no longer constrained to certain platforms or certain operating systems. Whoever receives the link, they can view on their phone, whether it's Android or iOS, they can view on a Mac, or if they work in Linux. We're really breaking down those limitations and making it easier to collaborate with our vendors and stakeholders. The markups can be created on these saved files through that web browser viewer, and they are saved to the shared file. Because they're saved to that shared file, both users, the recipient and the sender, can see and respond to the markups in order to get their design critique and criteria. Share and Markup utilizes 2 main applications on the 3D Experience platform. The first one is 3D Drive. 3D Drive is very similar to Dropbox in that you can upload files, generate links, and send them. What Share and Markup is going to do is help automate that process. 3D Drive is a little bit separate from your production files in that the files in 3D Drive are not going to be revisioned. They're not considered production files, but they are ideal for sharing. The 3D Play app is the 3D web-based viewer that is utilized with Share and Markup. The reason why I'm mentioning these specific apps is your company and your users can experiment with these applications outside of Share and Markup. The Share and Markup tool essentially uses them almost like a background process. With Share and Markup, the tools and the sharing is initiated directly from within the SOLIDWORKS user interface. That's what I mentioned as far as the 3D Experience being more of a background process. Once we have the initial tool set up, everything really is going to be SOLIDWORKS centric. Now, if you have purchased new SOLIDWORKS seats, as of July 1st, 2023, this is also when 2023 Service Pack 3 was released, all SOLIDWORKS seats have the ability to utilize and be purchased with these tools. So if you are not sure if you have access to these, please just feel free to let us know. And if you are an MLC customer, we can easily look that information up for you. So regarding the workflow of what this is going to look like from an end user perspective, we want to think about sending copies of a SOLIDWORKS file to a colleague. There's a variety of file types that we're going to utilize in order to send these files, whether it's a 3D XML, STEP, STL, IGES. These are all the built-in file types that get copied into your 3D Drive application. Now, if you haven't heard of the 3D XML, it's really just a generic file type, and it's a 3D experience specific file. A 3D Play viewer can view all of these files in a browser, so we're not going to hit any limitations there. And the majority of these are generic files. This is done to protect intellectual property. The 3D Play as a viewer shows graphical content only, so the recipient does not see your design tree when viewing the files. A link will be sent via email. There's a couple of ways we can send the email to the end user. The files will be viewed in a browser. Now the recipient will have to log in with a 3D Experience ID. Only takes a couple of minutes and it's free to create one. The files can be marked up with notes. Once saved, they will be part of that shared file in 3D Drive, and both users will be able to see that. Let's take a quick look here. So as we mentioned, we're inside of SOLIDWORKS and we're actually generating a specific email right now. We can enter in the email address, enter in a message, and this screen will automatically send an email directly to that person. You don't even have to go into your own email to send it. Once that user receives the link, they'll be able to open up the file in a web browser and they can start drawing on the file. They can add text, they can change the color. This is three-dimensional, so cross-sections, measuring, pan, zoom, and rotate will all be there. The markups can be saved in a chat environment, and the sender will see a notification and can view the marked up file side by side with the actual SOLIDWORKS file. From here, that process can be repeated, changes can be added, the link can be updated, and then more information can get passed back and forth.